In the royal palace of the planet Girana, silence ruled. The tall black walls glowed with golden lights. Alien nobles stood in long rows, waiting. All eyes were fixed on the throne, where she sat, the mysterious princess, always wearing a silver mask. No one had ever seen her real face. Not her servants, not her soldiers. Not even the nobles who served her father. There were rumors. Some said her face was cursed. Others believed she was too beautiful. And her beauty could drive anyone mad. No one truly knew the reason. They only knew one law. No one may bond with the princess without first seeing her face. And yet, no one had ever seen it. No one had dared ask her to remove the mask. The time had come. She was of age to choose a bondmate. A mental and emotional connection, stronger than marriage. A bond shared only by royals on Girana. But none of the alien suitors stepped forward. One by one, the nobles politely declined. Some bowed, others gave excuses. But the truth was simple. They were afraid. Afraid of her mystery. Afraid of her power. Afraid of what might lie behind that shining mask. The princess said nothing. She sat still on her throne, her eyes hidden behind the mask, but inside, her heart ached. And then the large metal doors creaked open. A man stepped in. Not an alien noble, not a prince, a human. His name was Jack. He wore a simple brown jacket, dusty boots, and carried a small bag. His face showed he had seen battle. He looked tired, but strong. The guards rushed forward. "You cannot enter here." But the princess raised her hand. "Let him come," she said in a calm voice. Her words echoed in the hall. The nobles stared in shock. "Is this a joke?" One of them whispered, "A human? In the royal court?" Jack walked forward, unafraid. He stood in the middle of the hall, under the bright lights. Then he looked up at the princess and said, "I heard you're searching for someone to bond with." The entire hall froze. Whispers flew like wind. A human had spoken directly to the princess. Without bowing, without fear, the princess leaned forward slightly. "You know the rule," she said gently. "No one may bond without seeing my face." Jack nodded. "I know." She tilted her head. "And yet, you still came." "Yes," he said. "I don't need to see your face." Gasps filled the room. One noble dropped his glass. Another laughed in disbelief. "Is he mad?" Someone asked. Jack smiled. "I don't care what's behind the mask. I care about the heart behind it." The princess went quiet. No one had ever said such words to her before. Every other suitor wanted her power, her beauty, her title. This man, this human, wanted something else. "Why would you risk bonding with someone you cannot see?" she asked. Jack looked around the hall, then back at her. "I've fought wars," he said. "I've lost friends, family, everything. I know what truly matters now. Your face doesn't matter to me. Your soul does." This princess's lips trembled behind the mask. She stood up from her throne. Every step she took echoed. The nobles whispered in fear. Was she really going to bond with a human? She stopped in front of him, her voice soft but strong. "You are different from the others. You came without fear. Will you bond with me?" she asked, "even if you never see my face?" Jack answered without hesitation, "Yes." Suddenly, a light formed between their hands. It wrapped around their wrists like golden threads. The sacred bond had started. The nobles screamed. "The ritual is forbidden without the face. This is madness. Break the bond." But it was too late. The bond had accepted Jack. The princess had chosen. She turned to the court and said, "None of you had the courage, but he did." Then she turned back to Jack and whispered, "Thank you." Behind her mask, a single tear fell. She had been alone for so long now. For the first time, she felt seen. Even if her face remained hidden. But in the shadows of the hall, a figure watched them closely. jealousy burning in his eyes. He would not let this union continue. Not without blood, because to some, the idea of a human bonding with their princess was the greatest insult of all. The golden threads between Jack and the princess glowed for several moments, then slowly faded, leaving a warm light on their hands. The bond was real now, and no one could break it, but the court was not silent. Any more whispers turned into angry voices. Some shouted, some cursed. How can she choose a human? He hasn't even seen her face. This is against everything we believe. Jack stood still, calm. The princess didn't look away from him. Her heart was pounding. But her voice stayed strong. "You were all offered the same chance," she said. "But only he had the courage to accept me." The high advisor stepped forward. He was old, with green skin and gold eyes that never blinked. He bowed low to the princess. "Your Highness," he said, "this act will bring war. The noble houses will not accept it," the princess replied. "Then let them be angry. I have chosen." But as she spoke, she noticed something, a movement in the shadows behind the high advisor. A figure turned away quickly, slipping through a side door. Someone who wasn't supposed to be there. Her mind flinched. There was danger. She could feel it now, deep inside her chest. Later that night, Jack was given a guest room inside the royal palace. It was quiet and soft, but he didn't sleep. He sat near the window, looking out at the 2 moons in the sky. He didn't know much about royal customs. He only knew he had done the right thing. The door creaked behind him. Jack turned, expecting a guard or servant. But it was her, the princess, still wearing the silver mask. She walked in slowly, her long dress trailing behind her. No guards, no maids, just her. "You're not afraid to be seen with me?" she asked. Jack smiled, not even a little. She sat across from him. "I wanted to thank you," she said softly. "No one's ever looked past the mask before." Jack chuckled. "I didn't come here to win a crown. I just followed what felt right." There was silence between them, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was peaceful. Like the calm before sunrise. Finally, she asked, "If I showed you my face, would you still want me?" Jack leaned forward. "I already do." But before she could answer, a loud boom shook the walls. A blast echoed through the palace halls. Both stood up instantly. Screams followed. Then running footsteps. They rushed to the door. Guards were shouting. "Intruders in the East Wing. Protect the princess." She grabbed Jack's hand and pulled him into a hidden hallway. "This way," she said, leading him through secret paths. Only royals knew. They reached a safe chamber guarded by elite soldiers. The princess turned to them. "Who attacked us?" One guard spoke quickly. "Masked warriors, assassins. They're from the House of Dalran." Her chest tightened. The House of Dalran had long hated her family, and now they were attacking. Because of Jack, Jack stepped forward. "Let me help." The guards hesitated. He wasn't trained in their style of battle, but the princess nodded. "Let him fight. He is mine now." She turned to Jack. "Promise me one thing. No matter what happens tonight." Jack gave her a small smile, not planning to. The battle was fierce. The intruders were fast and silent. They came with blades made of dark crystal, but Jack fought with pure grit. His fists and instincts sharper than any blade. He saved to guards by tackling an assassin, even took a cut to his shoulder, but kept fighting. The princess watched from behind a shield of guards. Every time he was struck, her heart ached when the final assassin fell. The halls were filled with smoke and broken stone. Jack limped toward her, bleeding but smiling. "Still standing," he said. She rushed to him, touching his face gently. "You could have died," she whispered. "But I didn't," he said, "because I had a reason to live." She wanted to cry, but she couldn't. Not yet. There was still one more problem. Later that night, As the royal healers treated Jack's wounds, the high advisor came to the princess quietly. He looked tired, his voice low. "Your Highness? We have found something." He handed her a small device, a message disc. She played it and heard a voice, cold and sharp. "Kill the human. Break the bond, or we bring the palace down." She froze. The voice belonged to someone she once trusted. Someone close, and now? They wanted Jack dead. She looked toward the room where Jack rested. He had no idea what danger still followed him. But she knew one thing now. She wanted to protect him. She would have to remove her mask and show the galaxy who she really was. The next morning, the palace was quiet. Too quiet. Soldiers stood at every gate. Drones hovered in the sky, and every shadow felt like it was watching. The attack last night had shaken everyone, but more than that, the bond between the human and the princess had started a fire no one could put out. Some called it betrayal, others called it hope, but no one stayed silent anymore. Inside her private chamber, the princess sat alone. Her silver mask lay on the table beside her. Her face pale, beautiful, and full of pain, was finally free. To breathe, only in this room, where no one watched, could she remove it. She touched her face slowly. Her fingers trembled, not from fear, but from something she hadn't felt in a long time. Doubt. She whispered to herself, "If he sees me, will he still stay?" In her heart, she wanted to believe he would, but her people had feared her face for so long. She feared it too. Then came a knock, a soft one. Her eyes widened. Only one person knocked like that? "Come in," she said. Gently, Jack entered the room, wearing clean clothes now. His shoulder was wrapped in bandages, but his smile was still strong. She quickly picked up her mask and turned away, but he stopped her. "You don't have to wear that when I'm here." Her voice cracked, "But I must." He stepped closer. "Why?" "Because I'm afraid," she admitted. "Afraid you'll look at me the way they all do. Like a cursed thing, not a person." Jack walked around until he stood in front of her, his voice calm and warm. "You fought side by side with me last night. You saved me. I've already seen your heart, and I promise nothing on your face could ever scare me." She stared at him, unsure, then slowly, she removed the mask. She lifted it away from her face and placed it down, and there she stood, face bare. Eyes open, lips trembling. Jack looked at her. Truly looked. Her skin was smooth, with faint glowing lines. Ancient royal markings. One side of her cheek carried a soft scar, barely visible. Her eyes were deep, violet, bright, and sad at the same time. She looked like someone carrying centuries of loneliness and Jack. He smiled, not in shock, not in pity, but in warmth. "You're beautiful," he said. She blinked, stunned. "You're not lying?" "Never," he said. Anyone who feared this face was blind. Tears rolled down her cheeks. She covered her mouth with both hands. No one had ever said that to her, not once in her whole life. "Thank you," she whispered. "I was so scared." Jack reached forward and wiped a tear from her cheek with his thumb. "Don't be," he said. "You don't have to hide anymore. Not from me." But peace didn't last long. A guard burst through the door, panting. "Your Highness? Forgive me. There's trouble in the council hall. The noble houses are demanding your bond be broken by force." The princess picked up her mask quickly, but did not wear it. Instead, she held it in her hands like a broken shield. "Send my message to the council," she said firmly. "Tell them I'll speak to them." With my true face, the guard looked shocked. "But, princess," she cut him off. "Now?" Jack placed a hand on her shoulder. "I'll be right beside you." She nodded. "I'll need you there." Minutes later, the two entered the great council hall. The nobles gasped when they saw her bare face. Some looked away, others stared with wide eyes. One voice shouted, "She broke tradition." Another roared, This is the end of Girana's purity. The princess raised a hand, her voice loud and clear. I am your princess, mask or no mask. I bonded with a human not because of weakness, but because of strength. He saw me when none of you dared. She stepped forward, eyes full of fire. You feared my face for so long you forgot to see me. Now look, she said. See me as I am. Jack stood beside her, not saying a word, but his presence was enough. He was calm, unafraid, even surrounded by aliens who wanted him gone. One noble stood, Lord Telvar of the House Dalron. He shouted, "This human will destroy our bloodlines. He must die." But another voice spoke next, this time from the far end of the room. It was an elder noblewoman, Lady Shora, her voice soft but sharp. "No, Telvar," she said. "Perhaps it's time we stop fearing the mask. Perhaps it's time we stop fearing love." The hall went silent again. Eyes turned from the human to the princess, to her unmasked face, to the glow of her bond mark. The princess looked around for the first time. She felt their stares were not filled with fear, but maybe with curiosity. She took Jack's hand and raised it. "I will not break this bond. If it brings war, then so be it. But I will not hide any more." And somewhere in the shadows, Lord Telvar's eyes burned. He had failed to scare her, but he wasn't finished yet. He would not rest until the human was buried. And the princess wore chains instead of a crown. The council hall was quiet after the princess's words. Some nobles looked away, unsure. Others whispered among themselves, not yet ready to speak openly. But one thing was clear, her face was no longer the fear. Now, the fear was what she had done. Bonding with a human, breaking royal tradition, daring to challenge the noble houses in public. As she left the chamber, hand in hand with Jack, eyes followed them like knives. The silver mask stayed tucked in her belt, no longer hiding her face, but hiding her past. That night, the palace glowed. With silent tension, every hallway held guards. Every shadow seemed longer. Jack couldn't sleep. Not because of fear, he had faced death before, but because of what he saw in the eyes of the nobles. They weren't done, and one of them wanted the princess gone. Down in the lower wing of the palace, Lord Telvar stood in a dark room with 3 others, their faces hidden behind black hoods. On the table in front of them was a plan, a cruel one. "She's no longer one of us." Telvar growled. She bonded with a human, unmasked herself in court, and now she walks like a queen. One hooded figure asked, "Do we strike now?" Telvar nodded slowly. Yes, but not with blades, something quieter. He opened a small black case and revealed a thin glass vial. Inside was a glowing red liquid, lethal, ancient, and undetectable by royal scanners. "One drop," Telvar whispered. "In his drink, let the human die first. Then she will break." Meanwhile, the princess met Jack in the inner gardens, a place of peace, full of silver trees and soft glowing flowers. She looked tired, but calm. He smiled at her. "You okay?" She nodded. For now, they sat beside a fountain, moonlight touching her face. She leaned into his shoulder. "I never thought I'd show my face in that room," she said. "And now?" Jack asked. "Now? I feel lighter," she replied. "But also afraid." Jack looked at her. "Afraid of what?" She hesitated. "Afraid they'll take you away. They couldn't break me with fear. But if something happened to you..." She looked away. Jack reached out and touched her chin gently. "Nothing will happen to me," he said. "You're stuck with me now." She smiled for the first time that day, but just beyond the trees, unseen eyes were watching. A shadow moved, silently, waiting for the right time. Later that evening, the royal feast was prepared. Not in celebration, but as a public gesture of peace. The nobles were invited. Even those who opposed the bond. Food was served, drinks poured, smiles faked. Jack sat beside the princess at the long table. He felt the tension in every glance, but he stayed calm, till a server placed a silver cup in front of him, wine sweet, red, and perfectly chilled. He reached for it, but the princess stopped his hand. Her fingers tight on his wrist. "Wait," she said suddenly, her eyes fixed on the cup. "What is it?" Jack asked, surprised she didn't speak. She stood up instead, lifted the cup, and poured it slowly into a nearby fire bowl. The flames turned blue, then green, then hissed. Gasps filled the table. A few nobles stood. Others sat frozen. The poison was real and meant for Jack. "You tried to kill him," the princess said coldly. She turned her gaze toward the nobles, but one face had already disappeared. Lord Telver. Jack stood beside her. "Guess we found the answer," he said quietly. She clenched her fists. This is no longer a war of words. That night, the princess summoned her royal guards. She called her most trusted commanders and gave a new order. "Find Lord Telver," she said. "Dead or alive," Jack spoke up. "He won't stop, you know," she nodded. "He will try again." And again, Jack took her hand. "Then, let's finish this." In the hours that followed, the palace became a fortress, all gates locked, all nobles questioned. Telver was gone, vanished into the mountains, but his allies remained. The princess stood before her people the next day. No mask, no lies. She spoke clearly. "There is no curse," she said. "There is only fear, and fear must end. I chose the human, and I stand by that choice." The crowd listened. Some shouted in support, others turned and walked away. But no one threw stones, not this time, and far away. In a hidden cave, Telvar stared at a map. Next to him stood a pale alien girl, eyes sharp, a secret weapon. "If poison fails," he said, "then let's give them war." 2 days passed since the poisoned wine revealed the truth. Lord Telvar had vanished, but fear still moved through the palace like a slow poison. Every guard watched the gates with sharp eyes. Every servant whispered in corners. Even the air felt heavier. Jack stayed close to the princess. He didn't trust anyone outside her personal guard. Even they seemed nervous, but the princess stayed calm, strong, unmasked, and no longer afraid to be seen. They met each morning in the quiet garden. It had become their place where they could speak without walls listening. She leaned against him under the glowing trees. "Are you tired of this yet?" she asked with a small smile. Jack smirked. "Royal politics, assassins, poison. What's not to love?" She laughed softly, but then her eyes turned serious. "He won't stop," she whispered. "Telvar is building something. Planning something worse." Jack nodded. "Then we'll be ready." But they weren't. Not. For what came next, that night, a soft alarm rang in the princess's room. She sat up instantly. Jack was already pulling on his boots. A voice buzzed in through the wall speaker. "Breach in the West Wing. Body has been found." They rushed down the halls with 2 guards and found the body of one of her personal handmaidens lying cold. Her eyes open, no blood, no struggle, just silence. The guard whispered, "No signs of entry." She let the killer in. "Jack," said quietly, someone she trusted. That's when the princess noticed it. On the wall drawn in ash was a symbol, a circle with a cut through the center. Her eyes went wide. "I know that mark," she said. "It's the House of Night." "Blades," Jack frowned. "What's that?" She looked at him slowly. "They don't send soldiers," she said. "They send Wayne an assassin, born in the dark, trained from birth, and they never fail." Back in the throne room, the council debated once more. But the princess didn't listen. She was thinking who had hired the Nightblade. It had to be Telver, but where was he hiding? And when would the assassin strike? That evening, Jack sat on the roof garden, watching the stars. The city lights below looked peaceful. But his mind wasn't then. Something changed. The wind shifted. A whisper behind him. He turned to slow. A blade touched his neck. A figure cloaked in black stood behind him, face covered. "You bonded with her." The voice said, female, calm, cold. "That was your mistake." Jack didn't move. "Let me guess," he said slowly. "House of Night Blades." The blade pressed harder. "You were not supposed to be chosen. Your blood will clean her path." Then clang. A blast of energy slammed into the assassin's shoulder. She jumped back and vanished into shadow. The princess stood at the door, holding a pulse pistol, her face pale, her hands shaking. "Get behind me," she yelled, but the assassin was already gone, disappeared into the walls. Jack got to his feet, breathing hard. "She could have killed me," he said. "She wanted you to see her," the princess said quietly. "It's a warning." That night, the princess called her war commander. She gave one order. "Find Telver's hideout," she said. "Search the old tunnels, the mountain caves, even the forgotten catacombs." But before the team could leave, another message came. A child's voice, crying, sent through a hacked channel, "Please, help. She's bleeding." "My mom?" "The princess." It was a trap, but they didn't know that yet. The princess listened, her face pale. "That voice. It sounds like one of my old handmaiden's daughters." Jack grabbed his gear. "Then we go." "No?" she said. "I go. You stay here." Jack frowned. Not a chance. They argued for minutes, but in the end, they went together. A small team, 2 guards and a tracker drone. The location led to an old palace outpost in the mountain edge, abandoned for years, now live again, inside. They found no child, no mother, only silence, and then the door sealed behind them, trapped. The walls glowed red, and a voice spoke through the old speakers. "Welcome, princess, this time. The human dies in front of you." The assassin stepped out of the shadows, her blade glowing blue, faster than any guard, more silent than death. But this time, the princess didn't run. She pulled out a blade of her own and stood between the assassin and Jack. "I won't let you take him," she said. The assassin tilted her head. "Then you'll both die." Jack stood beside the princess. "Let's make her wrong," he whispered, and the fight for both their lives began. The abandoned outpost echoed with quiet clicks. The walls glowed red from warning lights. Dust floated in the air like tiny ghosts. And in the center stood Death, the assassin, dressed in black armor, her face hidden behind a smooth silver mask. She moved like a shadow with a blade in each hand. Her feet made no sound, but her presence screamed danger. Across from her, the alien princess stood tall. No longer wearing her silver mask, her blade glowed with soft, violet energy, ancient and royal. Beside her, Jack clenched his fists. Ready? To fight barehanded if needed, the assassin raised her weapons. "I was trained to end bloodlines," she said, voice calm, "to kill without question, without doubt, but this bond of yours." She paused. "It disgusts them." Jack stepped forward. "Then they should have sent someone better." In a flash, the assassin struck. Her blades danced through the air, faster than light. Jack barely dodged the first strike. The princess met the second with her sword. Metal clashed, energy sparked. The guards tried to join in, but laser walls dropped from the ceiling, separating Jack and the princess from the rest of the team. It was now a 2-on-1 battle, and the assassin smiled. Exactly what she wanted. The fight moved fast. Jack rolled aside, pulling a small plasma knife from his boot. He wasn't a royal warrior, but he was a survivor. He stabbed forward, missed. Dodged back, the assassin spun and kicked him hard. He crashed into a pillar, gasping for breath. She turned toward the princess. "This ends with you kneeling." The princess said nothing. Instead, she attacked. Their blades clashed again and again. The room echoed with strikes and sparks. One slice grazed the assassin's arm. She hissed first, blood drawn. Jack stood up, bleeding from his lip. "Behind you?" he shouted. The princess ducked as the assassin spun mid-air. Blade swinging, it missed by an inch. Jack rushed forward and tackled the assassin. They fell hard to the floor. Her mask cracked slightly, and for a second Jack saw something. A young face, not older than 20. Eyes full of hate but also pain. He hesitated. That pause nearly cost him. The assassin kicked him away, flipped up, her blade now aimed for his throat. The princess screamed, "No!" She stepped in and blocked the strike, but the blade cut deep into her shoulder. She cried out, falling to her knees. The assassin stepped back, breathing hard. "Why protect him?" she asked, voice shaking. "He's just a human." The princess gritted her teeth. "Because he's mine." Jack rushed to her side, holding her up, blood soaked her robe. "You're hurt," he said, panic in his voice. "I'm fine," she whispered. "We end this now." The assassin raised her blades again, but her hands were trembling. She looked at them confused. For the first time, doubt crept into her body. The princess looked up at her and said, "You were trained to kill, but not to feel, right?" The assassin froze. "No one ever asked you if you wanted this," the princess continued. "They gave you a number, not a name." Jack stepped forward too. "I saw your eyes," he said. "You're not a monster." The assassin's blades lowered slightly. Her voice cracked. "They told me you'd beg. They said you'd lie to stay alive." "We're not begging," the princess said softly. "We're offering." Silence filled the room. Then the assassin slowly reached for her own mask. Her hands shook, and then she removed it. She had pale skin, short dark hair, and violet eyes, just like the princess. Jack's eyes widened. "You? You're related," the princess gasped. She stepped closer, ignoring her bleeding shoulder. "I know you," she said. "My mother had a sister. Her child disappeared as a baby." The assassin blinked slowly. "They told me I was found in a fire. No name, no family. They gave me a sword and a mission." "You're my cousin," the princess whispered. "You were supposed to be dead." The assassin stepped back, her hands open. Her blades fell to the floor. A loud clatter echoed through the room. Jack looked between them. "So, now what?" The assassin, no longer just a killer, lowered her eyes. "I failed my mission," she said. "I'm supposed to die for that." "No," said the princess firmly. "You're coming home." The guards burst into the room as the laser walls shut down. They pointed weapons at the assassin. "Stand down." But the princess stepped in front of her. "She's not the enemy. She was stolen from us," Jack added. "She had a choice just now, and she made the right one." The guards hesitated, then slowly lowered their weapons. And in that quiet, broken room, 3 hearts beat. One in love, one in pain, one slowly learning what it meant to be free. But in the shadows, far away, Lord Telvar watched a screen and crushed a cup in his hand. "You were my blade," he whispered, "and now you are broken." The skies above Girana were darker than usual. Storms brewed near the mountain peaks. Ships circled the capital in silence. The nobles watched nervously from tall towers. Because word had spread, the princess had forgiven the assassin and chosen a human to stand beside her. Some called her a traitor, others called her brave, but all of them waited for what would come next. Inside the palace, the halls were quiet. The assassin, now known by her true name, Sorel, was resting in a guarded chamber. Her hands were no longer bound. She was no longer hiding. She had chosen peace. Jack sat near a window overlooking the courtyard. His shoulder ached, his ribs were bruised, but his thoughts were only on her, the princess. She entered the room quietly, wearing a black and gold robe. Her face was uncovered, glowing in the soft light. "You should rest," she said gently. Jack smiled. "You always say that," She walked closer and sat beside him. "I never imagined this," she whispered, "that I'd find love and family and nearly lose both in one night." He took her hand. "You didn't lose either, eh?" Guard knocked on the door. "Forgive me, Your Highness," he said, "but we've located Lord Telvar." She stood up at once. "Where?" "An old fortress half-ruined, hidden in the mountains. He's gathered mercenaries and loyalists, maybe 40 strong." Jack stood as well. "Then let's finish this." "No," the guard said quickly. "He sent a message for 2. The princess only." The princess took the small disc and played the message. Telvar's voice came through, cold and cruel. "You chose a human. You brought shame to our blood. Come alone, or I burn the fortress with everyone inside, including the children you swore to protect." She closed her eyes, breathing slowly, then turned to Jack. "I have to go." Jack's voice dropped. "Then I'm coming with you." She shook her head. "If he sees you, he'll kill the hostages before I reach the gate." Jack stared at her, heart pounding. "You're walking into a trap." She smiled sadly. "Maybe, but this time, I don't need to hide who I am." Later that night, she arrived at the fortress, wearing no armor. Carrying only her sword, Telvar stood at the gate, surrounded by mercenaries. He looked older now, and more dangerous. So, he sneered. "The cursed girl arrives, maskless and proud." "I came alone, as you asked," she said. "Where are the children?" He nodded. They brought out a small group, 5 young alien girls, frightened, all former servants' daughters. He placed a dagger near one of them. "Make one mistake," he said, "and I end them." She raised her hand slowly. "No tricks, just me." But what Telvar didn't know was that Jack was already inside, using the tunnels Sorel had revealed. He and a small team of guards had entered through the ruins below. They moved silently, carefully, toward the chamber holding the prisoners. Up above, Telvar walked slowly. "Toward the princess, I trained Sorel to kill you," he said. "But she broke, just like you." "You trained her to be your blade," the princess replied. "But she chose her own path." "She chose wrong," he snapped. "She could have been queen if she killed you." "She'll still be family," she said quietly, "even if you aren't." His eyes burned with rage. He raised his weapon, but before he could fire a blast, shook the ground. Guards shouted below. Jack had freed the children. They were being rushed out. The trap had turned on Telvar. He spun around. "You lied." The princess drew her sword. "No," she said. "I just hoped you'd believe I was still weak." They fought beneath the old stars, blade against blade, power against pain. He was strong, fueled by rage and pride, but she was stronger, fueled by truth. In the final strike, she disarmed him, her blade at his throat. He laughed bitterly. "Do it. Finish me like a real queen." But she stepped back. "No," she said. "You don't deserve to die in battle." Jack stepped forward behind her. "She deserves peace." Guards seized Telvar, dragging him away. He spat curses, but no one listened. Not anymore. The next day, the princess stood on the high balcony of the palace. Beside her stood Sorel, no longer an assassin, but a cousin. And Jack, her bondmate, her partner, her protector. She raised her hand to the people below. "My face is no longer hidden," she said. "My heart is no longer afraid. I chose love, I chose truth, and I chose peace." The people cheered, not for the mask, not for tradition, but for her. Later, as the sun set, Jack stood beside her, the wind playing in her hair. He whispered, "You're not just a queen now." She smiled. "I know. I'm free." And so ended the story of the masked princess who hid her face for years, but was only ever waiting for one human brave enough to look past it and choose her anyway.